Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Can you give me a 5 by 5 if you can see and hear me? Steve Lomas, how you doing? User SCJ. I know who that is, but I can't work it out who it is. Tracy Truism. Uh, Anyone on there from YouTube? Chuck Money. 5 by 5. Chuck Money, I ain't seen you for a while. Where you been hiding? Blue North, a few people out there. I haven't shared this at the moment on. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Lauren, because I think there's an easy way of me sharing this. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and keep going and doing what you're doing. Let's do a repost of this. I should be able to share this directly on Twitter. And that's what I'm going to do. Hit the Twitter button. Let me go on there. Right, can you all see and hear me? I've just sent out and done what I've got to do. John Aspinall, how you doing? Gooner Mum's out there. Jason, I've watched that little video you sent me. Superb stuff coming back from you. Do I wanna? Right, I think I've already told you this anyway. But I will tell you. Maybe I'll tell you after. What in particular? Do you not? I'll tell you anyway, right? I don't particularly want to be blasting this out there, not for any particular reason. But we've got a set structure and we've got a legal identity, etc. United States of America have now said, their State Department, basically where they funded USA aid, funded all the fruitcakes that are attacking us, allowed that money to be laundered into the system, and normal groups like us couldn't get a look in. You'd certainly not get any backing from multi-billionaires because they don't understand what we're talking about. They do in America, by the way, very much so. But the State Department in America, much to the absolute hatred of the Guardian, there's 4 or 5 newspapers have mentioned it, and that is that they're giving grants to people that talk about the rule of law and educate people on the rule of law, the Constitution, sovereignty, against immigration, continuing with the bond with the United States of America's Western civilization is a core thing. But every one of them core things we can prove, and they're giving out grants between $1 million and $5 million. Actually, it's between $1 and $3 million, and then there's another one where they're giving out up to $12 million. I haven't finished that application yet, but what we're doing is making applications for that grant money, right? That would give us money to have a full-time team, etc. And just to make sure I'm clear on this, what I don't want is loads of people contacting me saying, "Can you employ me?" Right? Blah blah blah. We ain't got it. There's a process for it. All I'm saying is, you've got to be in it to win it. And the write-up that we're doing in the background, which is factual, everything that we've done, there's loads of stuff that we've covered. All of the key points we're covering. And the United States of America are literally keying in on the rule of law as it should be applied, constitutions, right? If you've got a constitution similar to theirs, how about England? What was the other things that was on the list? There was a number of things on the list, weren't there? Sovereignty. Oh yeah, borders and border control in a big way. I had a conversation with someone else for 2 hours on the phone yesterday. Who's big on that? In effect, he's actually putting forward a plan for an English. He calls it British, but I call it English. Right? We did have a long conversation. 2 hours. About an English ICE, right, where he wants to use the military, arm the military, veterans. They go into this group of people. They're going to be armed, etc. So there are a lot of things going on in the background. That's a separate conversation, by the way. But we are looking at these things. So more of these things are going to be coming up, and we'll be making what it appears to me. Just to make sure can you all see and hear me? What it appears to me is the United States of America fully understand the damage USA aid has done not to sovereign nations. They've almost been financing the left, the USSR, all of it. The extreme left, they've been financing the mental illness that is behind extreme left people, right? And what I'm trying to say is from reading the application, they know that groups like us have been not just starved of publicity, i.e. getting banned. They literally asked me, have you ever been banned? I was like, yeah. So we've put in there how many times we've been banned, who banned us, how they banned us, why they banned us, and all of that information. So all we're doing is put it through, just to make sure everyone's aware of this. The only reason I'm telling you now is because I've been concentrating on getting it done and writing it up. You read it, didn't you? I've read it. What did you think of the actual application? What did you think of what we put forward? I know you're biased.
But you covered every single thing that they want. Everything they've pinpointed that they want from a group is everything that you do.
It's what we do anyway.
We've been doing for years.
It turns out there is another group that they're looking at, and it's something to do with Rees-Mogg, which I wasn't too happy with, but that's one of those things. And there's another group. There are other groups, but they're not just. They don't just want us, meaning I mean, we're obviously in a full-on English group. As I have explained everything to them, but they're also funding other groups in Europe as well. Is there anything else I want to say on that? It's not. I mean, right. So all I'm saying to you is, I'm not expecting for them to give us anything, to be honest. But what I am expecting is, if you're not in it, you can't win the grant. There are multiple grants. The Guardian and other extreme lefty papers have got the raving up, and so has the British government, just to let you know, right? The British government have literally said to them, and the Guardian have said, you're interfering with what they term as British politics, right? And the American administration has said, no, we're not. What we're doing is supporting the rule of law as it should be applied. Mm-hmm. We are supporting democracy and freedom of elections and honest elections. We are, and then it goes a big through this list, right? about freedom of speech, freedom of demonstration, freedom this, freedom that. And when I've listed out everything we've done, like, I mean, and by the way, the right to keep and bear arms, right? Like Janet's just read through it and went, wow, like there's about 13 pages in the application. And none of it's AI'd, right? I made a specific point, apart from Janet reading it through, right, of not being. I'm not suggesting Janet's AI, by the way, but I didn't want it to be produced by AI. It had to roll and float. And one of the things that we've done, I'm not sure if it's on there yet. Hopefully it is. I'll give you an indication of that, right? It's part of what we've done. And before I get on to the main subject, because law is supposed to protect us, it's supposed to not punish us. It's supposed to protect us from them. No, I agree. But that's one of the things that I put in this application. The reason why you have a constitution, the constitution is it limits the state and it protects the citizen or the subject of the realm, right? And the judiciary is sitting there making sure both sides are all right. Graham, did you see the IRA getting pissed off with the illegal migrants? John Aspinall, I've seen that. I consider that to be a bit on the psyopy side, if I'm really honest with you. That's my honest opinion. I could say more, but I've also spoken to some people in Northern Ireland, and they're going, they actually said to me every now and again, they do this, and he actually went through a process, and he said all of the time that threat's still there, they're in a complete spiral of security. So he said, like the person I spoke to said, I wouldn't take any notice of that. That's the type of thing they do anyway. Let me just make sure. I'm going to show you. Can't forget the IRA origins with Marxists. The IRA are Marxists, pure and simple. Let me see if I can share this with you. So one of the things I want to show you, and we are building up this website, and Juicy and Lucy are doing a fantastic job. So if you went to the link for the English Constitution Society, there it is there, right? You got Charlie Staple case, the Charlie Staple case timeline, but it's all just set out the way it's set out. Pre-incident context, England is under COVID-19 lockdown restrictions, public protests and objections to coercive lockdown measures begin. Charlie Staples becomes involved in peaceful objection, exercising rights of freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of assembly. This sets the stage for confrontation. That was in 2020, right? The incident, during the peaceful objection event, Charlie is approached by 4 police officers, PC Stephen Richardson, PC Ben Purton, PC David Grivas and PC Jacob Fuller. Police sergeant. Police sergeant and police sergeant. 2 police sergeants. That actually makes it worse for them, by the way. The officers physically restrained him, inflict pain, intimidate him and cause physical harm. Independent of video evidence captures the incident. The statement of case frames this as torture under uncat definitions. First criminal charge against Charlie. There it is. Let me bring it up a bit first. Police charged Charlie with an offence relating to COVID lockdown. Many people have forgotten we actually had a part of the case where they said no case to, and we used no case to answer, and this was in Westminster Magistrates Court, and we used the constitutional arguments, and the stipendiary magistrate, district judge, whatever you want to refer to him as, threw that one out, right? Case escalates to Crown Court for jury trial. So anyway, the judge rules no case to answer. Charlie is fully acquitted. This is the first judicial confirmation that Charlie did nothing unlawful, right? Because he'd done nothing wrong at all. Second criminal charge, 2021 to 2022, police bring a second charge of assaulting an emergency worker relating to COVID lockdown. Case escalates to Crown Court for jury trial. Jury returns a unanimous not guilty verdict. Charlie is acquitted again, this time by a jury. Charlie initiates a private prosecution, 2022 to 23. After 2 acquittals, Charlie attempts to prosecute the officers for torture. He files a private criminal prosecution under Criminal Justice Act 1988, Section 134, torture. UK implementation of UNCAT. Torture is a crime. The case is legally valid and properly submitted. Attorney General and Solicitor General block the case, 2023. The UK government intervenes. The Attorney General and Solicitor General apply for a veto. Criminal Justice Act 1998, Section 135, this veto prevents prosecution of police officers for torture, overrides UNCAT obligations, and blocks the Charlie's case entirely. This is the secret bar Graham Moore highlights, right? Because they're not supposed to have that in there, and they haven't really told anyone that it's there. Graham Moore publishes the statement of case 2023-2024, writes and publishes the statement of case, explains the constitutional issues, exposes the Section 135 veto, frames the case as part of a wider pattern of police abuse, highlights that 1,888 restraint-related deaths since 1990, begins public advocacy for Charlie. This is when the case becomes widely known. Universal jurisdiction strategy developed 2024. Because torture is universally prosecutable under UNCAT, Charlie prefers a universal jurisdiction filing. Graham provides constitutional and legal analysis. The case is prepared for submission in the United States. Texas is chosen because we trust Texas common law procedures. UNCAT obligations apply regardless of nationality or location. This is legally unprecedented move for an English torture case. And then I just want to make sure everyone gets this. This is a legally unprecedented move for an English torture case. Although a case was brought against Sir Vince Cable in relation to torture that the British courts refused to look at. And that case was brought in New York, and the outcome was an out-of-court settlement. The Americans and Restore Britain should look at UNCAT and the 250,000 rapes and torture of white English working class girls being covered up by the British. The case held in America. This has been systemic cover-up by the British state for approximately 50 years. Ongoing advocacy and constitutional framing. Graham continues to publicise the case, explain the constitutional implications, highlight unlawful nature of the veto, connect the case to broader English constitutional restoration. The case becomes part of a wider movement challenging state coercion and police impunity. Tort case will be heard in December 2026. In December 2026, the tort case will be heard regarding false imprisonment and unlawful violence. The courts have struck out the torture element, even though it was kept in by a High Court judge, which is absolutely correct. They did do that. Torture was put to the jury for the first time ever in criminal proceedings. There is no separation of powers when there should be. The separation of powers has been ignored by the British state, which is subverting the English constitution. We are common law jurisdiction. We are a common law jurisdiction. We are not getting remedy for the state abuse of subjects of England. And then there's some other elements in there. If you go back and you have a look at these things, there's lots of things in there. Everything they've done and some more. So part of, just to make sure you're aware of this, part of our case takes them over to the website. There's going to be a lot of information on there going through everything that we're doing. And if we had a full-time team, so the first grant is between $1 and $3 million. It's a continuing grant, so you get it every 2 years, but they want to see that you've hit certain points. And there's another one which I'm making an application for now. It's either $12 million or $15 million, right? It's a lot, and it's targeted at people like us, right? So where we've got two structures in the background, one the English Constitution Party and one the English Constitution Society, that is one of the things that they're looking for. And they're also looking for your continuing what you're doing, right? So in some parts of this, we'll be doing a write-up about the election case, right, which really needs to be done. Then explain how many people went to the Royal Courts of Justice, how many people went the first time, how many people went to the appeal where there was 95 people and they had to open up another court, and they did that, and they said justice has to be done, and we won 3-0 on that case. Then when it finally gets to the court in Chester, 65 people, there was people waiting outside and turned away, etc., because the court was absolutely packed. So what we're expressing to them is there is public interest, but it was not covered by the media at all, right? And again, we've highlighted the fraud, how they do it and what they're doing, etc., right? So all of that information is in there, just to let you know. So once I've that's basically what I've been sort of sitting there trying to write, and the worst part of it is when you're trying to just concentrate that on nothing else, right? And then yesterday I had a 2-hour conversation with someone all about, by the way, highly professional, this geezer. We had a really good conversation. We're probably going to be on a channel talking about what we need to talk about. He's a veteran. He was a quite senior commissioned officer, and he knows what he's talking about in manoeuvring an ICE group, right? So we had a chat about the Constitution. There was lots of things he didn't understand about the Constitution. At the end of the 2-hour conversation, he actually said to me, "Graham, I could listen to you all day, ask you questions all day," and he said, there's an old saying, every day's a school day. I feel like I've just done a whole week in 2 hours. And I said, listen, if you want to talk to me, whatever, and you want assistance constitutionally, you want to understand what I'm talking about. The other thing that the guy's doing, this is what I really liked. We had a conversation about the British military. And I said, listen, I love the military, but I don't like what they've done, and especially to English regiments. They have literally torn the heart out of the English. The English ain't got an army anymore, right? And then I explained a few other things. I explained some stuff about Cromwell. I explained that it was actually military lawyers that codified our constitution and implemented the constitution after what was a civil war. Explained to him it wasn't a civil war, the English. The Scots was helping us, right? People come in because they'd had enough of the tyranny, right? And some elements of that he didn't know. I explained all that to him, and I said, not only that, what you've got is this situation, and I explained, and I said it's one of the reasons that they've took out the regiments. They've took out these independent regiments. And then this person then told me what regiment he was in, right, as quite a senior rank, right, and he said, what I've done is set this up as counties and shires. I said that is absolute music to my ears, right? That's music to my ears and my heart, because what you're actually doing is acknowledging that you should not be using devolution structures or regional structures that have been imposed upon us by our politicians and the European Union to destroy England. He said, I get that. And not only that, he said, each one of them areas and them regiments still have that core thing. As soon as you say this is our regiment, they'll be straight on it, right? Because they didn't want this to happen in the first place, right? The destruction of our military. You explained to him about the Dragons, Kent, the Buffs, and he was a bit of a historian on that. He said, I know about them. I know. He said, I know now. Right, and they got disbanded. So there's lots of things, little things that are happening in the background. What we've just got to make sure is we keep the fucking lunatics away from us. Talking about lunatics, what I'm going to do now is show you something else. You've got to be very careful with these people, and especially people. You all know what happened by now. You should all know what happened to Anne Widdecombe, right? This ain't a game. There's some things that's going to come out with that haven't come out yet. There's a lot going on in the background, not just with me, only the things that I'm talking to other people, and you'll see it, and I'm seeing what's going on, right? But Rupert Lowe MP has put this out. This disgracefully aggressive Islamic pressure group is now targeting John Cleese and his UK tour, right? I urge all Restore Britain members and supporters to back John, right? So this is a group called Five Pillars. They're an Islamic group, right? And they've put this out. The prominent Islamophobe John Cleese is to tour the UK in September and will visit cities with large Muslim populations such as Birmingham, Manchester, Bradford and Leeds, right? And there's a link there to that thing. There is John Cleese. He's been very vocal on Twitter and other mediums in saying, especially in London yesterday, in Marble Arch, they shut off the whole of Marble Arch, and they was praying in the roads and in the streets and shut it all down. They separated the Muslims into male and female and shut off a whole chunk of Marble Arch, right? And Sadiq Khan was fine with that, right? He's actually mentioned that and said that is them imposing power on us, right? That's the only reason they're doing it, no other reason. But now they've targeted John Cleese. Remember that John Cleese is 86 years old, right? I don't know who killed Anne Widdecombe, but what they're also triggering are the extreme left, right? And there's plenty of them out there. And by the way, they often pretend, because I've been seeing it, even on my own accounts, right? They pretend to be right wing. They are not, right? They're literally narcissistic in the way they operate, and what they're doing is targeting people. But John Cleese is 86 years old, right? He definitely does not deserve that. What? They are literally threatening him. It is disgusting. And I have no doubt whatsoever this group, the Five Pillars, are going to be. Let's see if I can find something else for him. There's lots of stuff going on with Rupert Lowe and the attacks that's going on. I know it sounds odd, but when I start seeing people being attacked, I know that they're doing a good job, right? And people on the extreme left, and the narcissistic lunatics out there will target people to do. But there you go. Rupert Lowe has said on the top there, mega, make England great again, right? So he's defining mega, make England great again, deportations. He is aggravating these people to such an extent that they now want Charlie Downs, this is Nigel Farage, removed from the political party, right? And what do we all say to that? Foxtrot Oscar, right? People out there have to be very careful of being infiltrated, and these people are dangerous. They're narcissistic. The way they operate, I've already studied how they operate. They're not nice people. There is nothing nice about them whatsoever, right? Valerie Ann Smith, Rupert Lowe, MP. I'm not jabbed. I wouldn't touch those experimental MRA and gene therapy experiments. I've got friends who took the jab and suffered horrific side effects, myocarditis, blood clots, strokes, all sorts of problems, right? He said it during COVID. He's still saying it now, right? Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage have finally made a response to our offer in a Daily Telegraph. I will go through their 4 conditions. This is something you really need to see, right? This has endeared me towards Rupert Lowe and his team. I know I've got certain issues with certain team members. That's always going to happen. I'm particularly worried about one person who's in charge of their policing. But now I've spoken to this other guy who is not technically part of Restore UK, but does have the military knowledge, training. He's got some of the skill sets that I've got in the background as well, including Prince 2 practitioner, which is like the top project management. We was talking about all of the things that I talked to you about, for example, the structures of project managers and then program managers and then people above that and the people above that who actually are the ones who know what's going on from end to end, and then they get other people to put all these separate things in place, and it's compartmentalized. So one lot there don't know why they're doing it, but their project affects that project, and it leads like that. Well, at the top and I said to him that the way to look at it for normal everyday people, it's a bit like watching actors on a screen and understanding that different scenes have got different producers, different actors, different producers, but the overall people that really are control is not just the producer or the executive producer, but it's the scriptwriter. The only person who knows all of it coming together is the scriptwriters or a group of scriptwriters. They're the ones who sit down together, and that's what normal everyday people can't see that, right? So I've having this conversation, and it made me realise we weren't on our own. There's some proper people thinking about how we're going to solve this properly, right? And it ain't with a load of nutcases. It's about people that actually know what they're doing, and understand that there has to be particular targets, there has to be particular ways of doing things, and that's one of the things this guy was talking to me about, right? He wanted to know is constitutionally what we can and can't do, and I was explaining to him what the Constitution is, what a denizen is, what an alien is, why it is that certain things have been removed from our Constitution, and that's what's enabled what's going on now. All of that needs to be made void. I explained to him the difference between void and repeal. He got that straight away. I mean, very quick. He got that straight away. So he understood what we was talking about. But now I'm going to read out the response from Rupert Lowe. There's lots of people who are not on Twitter, right? And I think people need to understand what's going on here. Reform and Nigel Farage have finally made a response to our offer in the Daily Telegraph. I will go through their 4 conditions. The Reform chairman, Lee Anderson, has said Reform will not step aside in any constituencies. Remember, we've stepped aside. We've actually said we will not go against Restore Britain if they're talking about England and they're pushing England forward and they're talking about restoring England and they're not, like extreme unionists in terms of what they actually. There's a different way in which it can be done. It's not, if you're going to take down the establishment, the British establishment is structured via the union. That needs to be dismantled, right? And we're only asking people to listen. That's all we're asking people to do. Meaning that Reform plan to run in every seat, right? Remember the last time they said that, and Farage told people to step down, right? Meaning that for Reform plan to run in every seat, even if there's an arrangement, this is not a constructive start. I have been realistic. Clearly, the whole point of any arrangement would be not to divide the electoral force. And you need to target the people who don't vote, come out because they've now got something to vote for, right? And there is a particular way in which I would say that to them, right? That would mean certain Restore Britain candidates standing aside to ensure a sensible and pragmatic approach to our voting system. If Reform are not willing to reciprocate in any constituencies at all, the offer I have made is entirely redundant. They have also said we must endorse Farage to be Prime Minister and allow the failed Conservative ministers to again be part of the future cabinet. Contrary to reports, I have never said that Reform must dump anybody. That is not my place to do so. It is their party. It is entirely Reform's choice who they run to be MPs or employ. It is putting these same ministers who failed Britain into a future cabinet which Restore Britain has helped to empower that I take issue with. Restore Britain will not be responsible for handing Nadhim Zahawi, Nadine Dorries and others some of the most powerful jobs in the country. Farage and Reform have also said that Restore Britain must outright sack Charlie Downs, putting a young Christian man out of work just as he is looking to build his life and start a family. That is simply not how I operate. But I want to be clear, if a sensible reciprocal arrangement can be found on our proposed policy platform, we would be willing to stand our Restore Britain candidates aside in certain seats in order to defeat the left-wing alliance. For any political party, that is a big step to make. Country before party. Reform have just outright rejected doing the same. If that position continues, then this whole exercise is futile. A deal will mean give and take on both sides. I've been in business long enough to know that. Our original offer was focused on policy. Their response is about personality. After all of the bad blood, if we focus on personality and ego, we will get nowhere. That much is obvious from the last 7 days. Our papers are economics, energy, deportations, policing, and much more show exactly what can be delivered. Properly considered policy must be central to everything. The plan to start this negotiation is on policy. To find common ground, sort out the clear differences, build on that and go from there. Restore Britain remains open to good faith talks where both parties understand the brutal electoral reality we are facing. Right? There's a lot more to this, but the basis of it is that goes back a while ago, but that just tell me what you think of that. I'll go back to my screen a second. Reform on mentally redundant delinquent fools. Not all of them. Some of them just ain't got a clue. We'll get nowhere. Choice language, very clever. Give Graham a follow on X. Yeah, and that's another thing. My X has been stuck exactly 13,700 for about 3 months. So no one can tell me there's not something seriously going on with Twitter. And it was probably London Twitter office that have put a block on it, which is another thing that we're pushing forward with this stuff in the background so they understand what we're doing. Billy Joe, if Farage goes down on Binface, Rupert should not go near him. Rupert's got it right. Some other people have been referencing that they believe something, that they believe there will be an election before the end of this year, right? I am strongly of the opinion that that's going to be happening. What I said before, and I did tell a few people this. I did tell you. I thought there would be an election by June 2025. We've now gone past June 2026. I'm really surprised there hasn't been. But what there has been is a change of leadership, ready for a snap election, right? All they've done is put Andy Burnham in place because they know how bad everything else is, right? So I do believe that there's going to be a snap election by the end of the year, right? Without any doubts whatsoever. Let me just put something else in because there was some good stuff. I was explaining to Janet who this person is because she didn't know who she was. This is an American. She's actually English. She was the girlfriend of Boris Johnson. She was actually on TV. I think it was GB News, and GB News said, "I understand that there's a spat between you and Boris Johnson, your ex-boyfriend or whatever." And she said, "No, there's no spat." She said, "I just know that what went on in the background, especially to do with COVID." And she went on the screen, and they said, "Is there anything that you want to say directly to Boris Johnson?" She looked straight at the camera. And she said, "Tell the people the truth. Boris, tell the people the truth. Tell the people what you come back and told me about the meeting that you had with the Bank of England, what this COVID is all really about, right? Tell them the truth, what's going on, right?" And she was completely sincere, right? She's an entrepreneur. She's also into lots of things to do with technology, right? So this is her, and I explained to Janet who she was, but this is what she says. This is an hour ago. "I'm not sure how long this is going to take for people to realise, but Nigel Farage is completely compromised. Like so many before him, he's only there because they own him. And it's only a matter of time before it all comes out. Bookmark this too," right? So she's telling you to bookmark this, come back to it, right? This post will touch a nerve, especially with so many people believing that the establishment is after him. All theatrics. Don't get distracted. This isn't the first time a useful idiot is chosen, right? She's still talking about Nigel Farage, right? "I want them outside of every government building and on their streets where they live for security purposes, of course, right? If they don't like it, flock off, right? Hear me out. I want more. There'll be a snap election by the end of the year, right?" Jennifer, and I concur with that view. I think there is something now going on bearing in mind what they did, bearing in mind that they've pulled certain people, so the king is no longer living at Buckingham Palace. I think there's some things going on. It could be that we could be at war with Russia within the next 2 to 4 weeks. The reason why is we keep sending in shadow missiles into Russia. Russia's had enough now. There's some alliances going on in other places in the world. We've already got a full regional conflict going on in the Middle East that you're not being told about, right? I'm telling you now, that is exactly what's going on, right? So she then says the world isn't getting worse, it's getting exposed, right? And again, there's loads of things in there. There is a good one here, but let me just say what's going on here. Connor Tomlinson says, this is why the press are going so hard against Restore Britain. Boris Johnson is the establishment's pantomime villain. For all the booing and the hissing, he'll hold hands with the cast and take a bow at the end as they all let infinity Beaumalians into Britain. But Lowe makes the rehabilitation of Boris' image impossible and promised to reverse the Boris wave. It's also why they want Nigel Farage and Mohammed Zia Youssef, out of the picture, despite Farage's attempt to soften his image to the media, circa 2024, to recently. They see him as an avatar of nationalism, right? Performing political necromancy on the Tory party is much harder. With Farage and anti-Tory loyalists in the picture, it would be impossible if Reform and Restore worked together. So they're doing their best to rubbish Restore, brief against Youssef from within Reform, and intimidate Farage out of public office, all to turn Britain into a global bus station for the third world and get lucrative speaking gigs like this one, right? And then you've got someone, this is Boris Johnson at a speaking gig, right? Jennifer Akuria said again, this was only yesterday, between debauchery and with Epstein, lying over COVID and warmongering for Ukraine, most politicians should be in prison right now. I absolutely agree with that. Many will laugh at that, which they don't understand. It won't be long now, right? There is something going on, and this is important. A lot of people don't understand how important this is, right? This was retweeted by Elon Musk, right? The only bit I didn't like was the unicorn. What you'll see is lots of references to Q, right? It is not a conspiracy theory. And twist of fate. I can't let I'm going to skip through this and make sure you can see it all, right? The good guys and the bad guys, the warlocks and the wizards, right? And it's all out there. And there is, the storm is upon us, right? And again, what they're doing, the Great Awakening Q. Now, why is that important? Because over the weekend, and I did put this on the group, Elon Musk retweeted that, right? So again, there is something definitely going on. Don't ask me what. I ain't got a cuckoo, right? All I know is something's going on. Right, let me have a look at and see if there's anything else in here. What did you say that song was? Was that U2 song?
U2.
It was a U2 song, right? Not that I know anything about music. Dump that U2 knobhead.
Yeah.
No, someone else don't like U2. You don't like U2 either, do you? Oh, Janet don't like you. Yeah, look, you're getting on with Janet then. She don't like U2 either. This is so interesting. There's lots of stuff going on in the background, right? What was the other one I was going to show you? Enough of this woke garbage. Telegraph is a traitor to its own people. Cancel your subscription today. And then I did, by the way, cancel my subscription to the Daily Telegraph. Right, I've had it since 2019. There are certain elements to the Telegraph that I used to like reading. I've just completely got rid of it, and I think everyone should understand that I actually got rid of it. Let me go back and see if I can find you something else, because I think it's important that you see this. So let me go back onto this. Notifications. Native Britain, English, Welsh. Right, there's one I'm going to put out in the chat. If anyone else wants to send this out, retweet it. There's a couple I'm going to do now. I'm going to put this out there now. It's had since this morning. Why has that gone funny? It's had a few votes. So I put this. So Charlie Downs put out this morning. There is only one thing that matters: demographic security and sovereignty for the native British people. This proposition has caused the establishment media to turn its guns on me and restore Britain, because the objective of their ideology is to dispossess the British people of their homeland. They deserve nothing but your contempt. Ignore them. We are just getting started, right? And what I've put in there, for anyone that wants to understand this, there is a very simple way of saying it, right? Native Britain, English, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, Cornish, natural human tribes. It's not difficult. Even the Americans and the Native Americans get it, right? British is a legal fiction created in 1948 by Marxists. I'm a Briton, by the grace of God, English, right? Does everyone understand what I've just said there, right? So British is the legal fiction. Britain is, we come from this island, and the separate nations are who you really are, right? So English, Scottish, Welsh, Irish, and Cornish, right? Does everyone get that? So there's that. There was another one I was going to show you, if it comes up on my screen. There was a poll I did. It's really annoying what they've done with here it is. Here's the passport one. Does everyone see that on their screen? There's been 321 votes so far. 99.1% of the votes so far. Have a read of what it says on the screen. Some people have contacted me and said they found it highly hilarious that I put the last option in, right? Oh dear. Right. Do you want English passports for the English and English nationality back on all official forms, right? I don't think this is a difficult one, and I think Restore Britain we should be pushing this to Restore Britain, right? You should be saying this to all of them. Recognising English and England and England, right? Yes, 99.1%. No, 0.3%. And then you've got 0.6% voted for no, I'm an Israeli, right? It's fairly obvious why that last one is in there, because everyone's saying Israel is entitled to be a nation. Israel is entitled to defend itself. Israel is not just an ethno-nationalist state, right? But Israel. Let me come off of that a second. Sorry. I'm sure you didn't want to see me having more of a sneezing fit. Rupert said, "Bless you, be careful you don't poo." That gets a bit awkward at our age. What are you laughing at? Right, so there it is. Now I'm just expressing to everyone, this is not me having a pop at anyone, right? I'm just saying this simply. All them people standing up saying Israel, 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 right? I'm going to say it once and say I've said it before, right? I'm going to say it again. That's what I really should say. Fuck Israel, fuck Palestine. Not because I don't like what's going on out there at all in any way whatsoever. I'm about England. Right, we've got enough of our own problems. We need to resolve our own problems. Right, we have got a massive problem with our borders, and I'm just making sure that everyone understands this. Israel can tell everyone they're a Jewish state. England is a Protestant state and a Christian nation. Our constitution ensures a Protestant religion and a Protestant executive. Right. And there was a reason for that in the past, and that reasoning is continuing, just to make sure you're aware of it, right? Israel, again, is allowed to defend itself and have really strong borders, right? What's happened now, right? With England. No one is listening, right? And let's have it right. If England cannot protect the larger border area that it has, and if it was down to me, I would blow up the channel, right? And I would have a border force so strong in the channel that any dinghies coming across better stick their hands up a bit lively, because they're turning around that dinghy, and if they don't, we'll blow them out of the water, right? That's the way you have to deal with these people. This country is being invaded. They have raped our children for the best part of 50 years. And it's about time the English stood up and stopped it. And there are a number of discussions about militias, about walled and watch groups. Constitutionally, I'm having some really good discussions with people in the background. So don't think people are not doing nothing and thinking about it. There's some elements that I don't want to put out on the show. But there's certainly some other things that I've been having discussions about. Has everyone got that? Do you all understand what's going on? Now, there was something else I was going to show them on Twitter, but I can't think what it was. Oh, I know, right? I want to show you this last one before I do anything else, right? So we'll go on here. Take that back down. I'm sure it was on his one. We'll have to see where it is. I'm not sure how quickly he sent this out. If I can find it, I'll send it straight out to you. But it was to restore people. I'm not listening to any of this nonsense about Nazis and all that. There's nothing Nazi about Restore Britain. Anyone who says that's talking shit, right? I mean, complete shit. Let's see. I know this is going to make you feel a bit woozy if I keep piling through this. There's a particular picture I'm looking for. It's not there. Is it there yet? Anyone got the link or the picture to what I'm looking for? Let me take this off the screen. I'll take it off the screen because I don't want you all heaving is on scroll, because it would make me feel sick. Someone scrolling through a screen. There's a particular image I'm looking for. But I'm really pleased that Rupert Lowe has said, and the way that he put it over, he said he's a Christian, he's just about to start his own family, and you want me to sack him? Not happening, right? That is a highly responsible person doing so, and saying it in the way he said it. I think is fantastic. There was a particular image I'm looking for. Maybe if I tell the audience, they can find it for me. There was an image of Anglo Royd or something like that. His name is, and Charlie Downs on the screen. They're both standing there as young men, and they've both got English lapel badges on, right? And what I put out was the reason why Nigel Farage don't like them and Restore is because they're talking about England. It's the lapel badges. Oh yeah, found it. Right. In fact, it's gone on to there, right? So there's there. I'm going to show you this again, right? So we'll put this image back on the screen because I think everyone should see this, right? Angloid. Charlie Downs is a pope. This was 20 hours ago. Charlie Downs is a patriot and a man of high integrity and honour within a political environment plagued by weasels. Charlie represents the next generation of Britons that have constantly been betrayed by the same establishment which Farage belongs to, right? The constant attacks towards Charlie by media and now Farage reform aren't just attacks at Charlie, but rather a whole generation. I agree with that, to be honest with you. And they've attacked my generation for years, right? That the fed up of the same tactics, policies and dishonesty within the political system and their weapon in the mainstream media. The deal must be out of the window as Restore's success and survival relies heavily on Charlie. Charlie's one of the team. He'd be the first to say that, but you've got to protect your team. These attacks won't stop the likes of Charlie, but will reaffirm all the previous beliefs held by Charlie and others about this system that has been set up against our people, right? And there they are, and there you can see on the screen there, hopefully, the two English lapel badges, right? So they are talking about England. And then I have put underneath there, you're both wearing English lapel badges. That is Farage's issue in a nutshell. Farage was brought in to destroy English nationalism. That was the purpose of UKIP. English nationalists were winning elections and had to be destroyed in favour of unionism. That is what they brought them in for. The English Democrats in 2009 won the Doncaster mayoral elections. They beat the BNP, they beat Labour, they beat everyone, and they won in a big way, right? That sent a fear thing through the system because they knew that the English were mobilising. And after that, they brought Farage into the picture to absolutely destroy English nationalism. That is why they did it, right? I'm telling you now, that's why they did it. They also brought people in to draw in English nationalists, right? Which is why I get very, what's the word I'm looking for? Paranoid about any group of people or any channels on YouTube that fly the English flag to draw the English in. The next thing you know, they've got the British flag back up and running because they're not who they say they are, right? And I want to make sure everyone's aware of this. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. In 2011, for the first time ever, and there's whole videos I've done on this. In 2011, for the first time ever, they added English-only national identity to the census. What they found from that census, they did it for a reason. They wanted to know where we was, where was the highest level English-only national identity. In the same way as they destroyed the army regiments of the English, they needed to find the civilian population of the highest levels of the English, right? And what they found was 57% responded without prompting to English-only national identity. If you combined it with British, it added another 10%. It went up to 67, right? So that's 32.4 million English only that marked the census. We are English, not British, right? British as a nationality on its own was 19%. I think that was combined, to be honest, but it was 19%. it was an absolute minority, right? It worked out something like 10.5 million people. Half of them were foreigners. They're the people taking control. And the reason they can take control is because they're cheating at elections, they're being funded, and they're pushing these people into parliament. Our constitution forbids them, foreigners being in parliament, and they're destroying us from the inside. That is classic Marxism. That is classic Fabian strategy, right? And that's exactly what they've done. And then what happened after that particular situation happened? The British government give 4 billion, that's with a B, not an M, £4 billion to Serco, Mears Group Limited, Clear Springs, and there was another one begins with C, and I can't remember their name. But four big groups. One of them went bankrupt because they was all at it and fiddling and all sorts of things. The whole thing was badly managed. It went pear shaped. But the 4 billion had been given to them, and then they was told to put asylum seekers into these areas, and it was the areas that at the highest level of English only national identity. One of them places was Bexley Borough, and particularly Bexley Heath, which was and Dartford, was an extremely high for the south. It was in excess of 75% English only national identity. It was a very white area, by the way. It was a lovely business area. It was quite a wealthy area, etc. That's where I used to live, right? Now, if you go back and have a look at it now, it's almost entirely black and brown, right? Lots of foreigners, lots of asylum seekers. No one speaks English there. If you go to Bexley Heath now at 3:30 in the afternoon, there's not a white face about, right? That's how bad it is. It's just completely changed in less than 10 years, right? And part of the problem, part of the problem was the 2011 census. Everyone was cheering, oh, fantastic, they finally recognised the English. That's not what they did it for. They need you to know where you was, right, as a civilian population, right? And then they flooded them areas. So you weaken that area. Exactly the same thing happened with the British Army. They took down all of the English regiments and destroyed them. And what they're doing is they're destroying the cohesion of those local regiments, where everyone, like if you join from the Devonshires, right? There was a Devonshire, there was the Somersets, there was all of these different in the southwest, right? They were all in regiments of the army, but people join them regiment, a bit like the Royal Marines. Everyone goes and joins the Royal Marines, but you become part of that community. You are that community, right? That's exactly what happened. So you got all these different places, the Cheshires, the Yorkshires, the whatever, all of these different, the Lancashire Regiment. There's all of these, and again, the Dragons was a big one. It came from Kent. It had been going for 800 years, and it was completely destroyed, right? They took it out completely in 1964, 62 years ago, all part of the plan, right? And I just want to make sure everyone understands what they did to the British Army. And what I was explaining to this person on the phone, if I'm honest with you, one of the things I explained was one of the reasons they've done that is because, and I explained to him, the reason why the army is not got called Royal, the Royal Army, is because in 1688 you turned your back on the king and you switched allegiance to the Prince of Orange, right? And in doing so, you stopped a war, right? Because the army said, we're not fighting anymore, right? We've already been through a civil war. We're not doing this anymore. The problem is at the top. The problem is at the executive, right? And when you see the links of what happened with Cromwell, with the military in Cromwell, with the military lawyers that wrote and codified an English constitution. Why I explained to this person I was talking on the phone, because he said, do we need a codified constitution? I said, you can't do that. You'll be in the same position as Southern Ireland. That's what happened with Southern Ireland, right? The Fabian Society wrote their constitution, and that's why they've got the problem they've got now, because no one realised what they was doing, right? And now the people of Southern Ireland can see that they've been stitched up, because Southern Ireland, by the way, was under the English constitution. They was the dominion, not a colony, of England, which meant they govern themselves, but the final law process come back to us, right? And that you can, and there's many countries in the world have done that on a voluntary basis. That's what the Commonwealth is. They've done it on a voluntary basis. So you're completely impartial. You're looking at the law. You're looking how they've applied it. Could be Jamaica, could be Bermuda, could be anywhere, right? And just to make sure everyone's aware of this, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm not sure if he's out there. Q is probably out there. I got invited to a Kenyan Christmas party in London, right? As part of the English Constitution Party, English Constitution Society. I think I was only one of, there was about 300 Kenyans there. I think one of two white people. Out of 300 Kenyans there, I would have said 5 didn't like the fact that I was there because I was white, right? That's the senses that I picked up, right? Whereas 295 absolutely loved it, right? We all had some food there. They had music, they had speeches. And one of the people that was there was the High Commissioner of the Kenyan Embassy. Remember, Kenya is now independent, right, of the British. And he come and spoke to me. And when we had this conversation, he said, "What do you represent then?" I said, "Independence." He said, "So you fully support the Kenyan independence?" I said, "Yeah." But again, Kenyans should support England being independent. And he shook my hand and said, "Yeah, we do. That everyone, self-determination is the number one human right." He was like absolutely with it. So even the Kenyans in London understood what we was talking about, and understood that the problem is the British, right? Not us directly, but the actual British. Have I sort of explained all that to you? Okay, Lesbians, I remember that. Mr. and Mrs. Obama there. No, they weren't, funny enough, but there was a few that looked like him. But they absolutely, John, I love looking at the comparison of capital ships by country during World War One, and the Royal Navy was untouchable. At one point, the Royal Navy was the biggest. I mean, even if you look at the Falkland Islands, that was probably the last time we could present a campaign anywhere. And again, a lot of good people died there. I actually know veterans. I was going to sign up to that. I can't remember how old I was, 18, 19. I mean, I remember having a young child and I was going to sign up. I mean, there was people queuing up at the military to say, "Yeah, go on, we're going to go down there and fight," and all that. The British did terrible things in Kenya. No, I agree. The British did terrible things in a lot of places. If you wish, send Graham a thing. Right, that's it. I love looking at the comparison of capital ships, County, World War One. Well, you must be proud. Let's have a look at that. Let's have a look. Now, if you can join the parties, I'm in Restore. We haven't got any objections at all, but and as far as I know, Restore Britain ain't got any objections to us. They know that we're about England. I mean, they're wearing English lapel badges. It irritates me that they conflate English and British, two separate things. You should understand that the British flag represents the British Parliament. It doesn't represent the English people. It doesn't technically. The only group of people who are not represented in that Parliament are the English. The Welsh have got representation, the Scots have got representation, the Northern Irish have got representation. The only people that haven't got representation, right, are the English. And people need to really understand that. I mean, can you find a venue for Raybot? Raybot, I spent 18 weeks in Downham Hotel some time back now. I have a immigrant hotel. Well, no. Any other questions from the audience before I reside? or retire, or whatever you want to call it. I wonder if I've got anything coming back off my screen. What's this? Alistair Heath is a self-declared Zionist. He believes that the Jewish people have a right to their own homeland and defend its borders. Heath describes English, Scots, Welsh and Irish who want the same in their country as bigots, repugnant, beyond the pale, etc. Is this hypocrisy? Yeah, it is. All I'm doing is saying that I want my own homeland, and it must be English. I don't think that's a bad thing. So Andrew Bridgen's just sent that out. If anyone wants to go and have a look at it, here you go. Let's see if I can put that out there. This one's from Andrew Bridgen. He's basically saying the same as what I am. We English are truly free under the English Constitution and common law. No, we aren't. And again, there's lots going on. So don't forget what we got coming up. We've got a seminar in Weston-super-Mare. And by the way, John Cleese actually comes from, did you know that? Comes from Weston-super-Mare in Somerset. He had a Somerset regiment and all. Right, don't forget, sharing is caring. The more you share, the more you care. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, transfer over. Just come over to Rumble, look up the Full English Show, hit the subscribe button. We need to get out well in excess of 10,000 this year. People are listening to us, but you have to be very, very careful out there of the infiltrators and people that wish to do us harm, right? And they certainly do, right? You need to understand that. Juicy and Lucy, Weston-super-Mare, all-day seminar, tickets on sale now. Punt that out there again. So don't forget, if I could find it, send me the link and I'll bring it up on the screen. I'm also going to, it's just an all-day seminar. Great show. Yeah, take care all. Right. I'll see everyone later on. Tomorrow night I'll be back. I've got a few things I've got to do tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be back in time for the show. Let me have a look. There's another one that's come up there. What's that one? Okay, Dave's on. He's on there. So don't forget. Hello, Mookie, and hello, Dave. How you doing? Quentin Rollins. What's he's put out there? Weston-super-Mare all day. Right, so I'll bring that up on the screen. Let's see if I can bring. I don't know what that is, Quentin. Did I ask you to bring something up and you brought it up? I don't know. But Quentin's out there having a little watch. Why has that gone like that? That shouldn't have gone on there. Right, let me see what this is. Oh, there it is. I hit the wrong one. Right. There it is on there. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen and I'll close the show out with this. Don't forget, everyone, hitting the like button, sharing and caring. Really important, everyone watching now and on catch up, hits the like button, right? And we have got people in the background that are not very nice people attacking us. I am going to have a further discussion about that. Weston-super-Mare all-day seminar, Sunday the 23rd of August 2026 at 10 a.m. It's an all-day one, right? English Constitutional Common Law Seminar, right? And there it is, £10 on the door, or scan and pre-book. You can pre-book it. So if you don't want to go, but you want to help us because of the petrol money, etc., we're staying with the people that night, and then we're going out to, I believe, a restaurant locally. So we're going to be going through that. Don't forget what's on there. So there it is. where the place is. Let's see if I can bring that up on the screen any further. Right, so if you was to scan that image on the right hand side, it'll take you straight to the booking, right? Keystoke Village Hall, Crooks Lane, Keystoke, Western Supermare, BS22 9XJ. There's me going through the discussions. You've got the English flag, Scottish flag, the Northern Irish independence flag, the Welsh flag, the Cornish flag, and the Irish flag. And I want to make sure everyone gets this as well. It's really important that you understand this. When you go and look at Cromwell's coat of arms, which they smashed to bits on the Restoration, they took it into Parliament and smashed it to bits, right? It was actually the English lion and the Welsh dragon side by side holding the crown. I want everyone to remember that. They're depicting Cromwell as the bad guy. He was not the bad guy. In fact, most of what he set out in the 12 years and part of their codified constitution ended up in the Bill of Rights, and nearly everything that they put in place, including the right to silence, by the way. And there was elements of the jury system that got changed during his reign, or his tenure, I should say. There's loads of things that I was shocked how much of it come from. I can't remember when it was. I'm sure he stopped pressing people like the right to silence, and if you was to be completely silent in court, what they would do is press you to death, right? They used to press you to death in court if you didn't put in a plea. And the reason why people would die and be pressed to death is because you couldn't then be found guilty. And if you couldn't be found guilty, all your property would go to your heirs. So they allowed themselves to be killed, in effect, by the state, right? Cromwell got rid of all of that and said you're not allowed to press people to death. And then when they restored the crown, they brought back pressing again, right? And it wasn't until maybe 100 years later that they considered it to be barbaric and stopped it. So much for the Magna Carta being so wonderful, because pressing really come about after the Magna Carta. Let me have a look at this. That's it. Good night. God bless to everyone. Don't forget what you're seeing on your screen. I'll leave that on the screen as we speak, so you can hit exactly what it is. If you want to go and hit that, if you want to come along, there's the address. Come along. It's an all-dayer. We'll be talking about it. We'll be chilling out and we'll be going from there. That's it. Good night. God bless. I will see everyone. and Juicy and Lucy, Tracy need to remind me to put that out every single night, because we want that one. This area is very important. They're targeting this area. They're particularly targeting Devon. They're going to target all of the shires and counties for major AI data centres which control everyone. And people need to understand what is going on. Let me have a look. Let's have a look. Tracy True. Hi, Tracy. You learn so much listening to Graham, like pressing people to death. Oh, for fuck's sake. What is wrong with these heathens? That's what they used to do, though. And it was Cromwell who stopped it. Right? So when people start saying Cromwell's this bad guy, he was like, listen, you don't press people to death because they don't plead. He said you have the right to remain silent in this country, and that right to remain silent was enshrined during the interregnum, right? It was Cromwell that said you have the right to remain silent. As a soldier, he witnessed people being tortured and he didn't like it. He said, that ain't right. Well, he didn't say that. but in my words of Cromwell, that ain't right. Take that red hot poker out of his backside, will you? Right, that's it. I'm off. Good night. God bless. See everyone later. Hopefully you've all been So you sort of understand what's going on. Going back to John Cleese, I think it's outrageous what they're doing to him. Again, the Muslims have completely taken control of some of our cities. I've said to people, listen, what goes on now is the easy bit. They've already took the cities. You either buck up and understand what's going on, but it does appear to me that Nigel Farage and others and the establishment have more than surrendered. They are committing treason against the people in the realm. And the only way to solve that is to remove the current establishment. The only way you're going to do that in one hit, in an easy move, is a reset to the English Bill of Rights. The Scotland would still have the claim of right. Doesn't affect anyone to infect in their rights. You go back to a position where you've got more rights, not less. And if I'm really honest with you, Cromwell was a far better proposition that we've currently got than what we've currently got, right? So just understand that. That's it, I'm off. Tiddly poo. Oh, don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution, and it always will be.